Hello, Internet. My name is Brananarchy, and welcome to Gregtech New Horizons 2.8. As we're getting started here, I should point out that this is a chosen seed. I wanted to make sure that I would have access to at least a decent start, so we wouldn't have too much of a grind at the beginning. This right here is one of the reasons I chose this seed. Not only is this building made of bricks, which is going to make our blast furnaces easier when we get to those in a few hours, it also has this bed. And this bed short-circuits the whole first chapter of the quest book, and is just going to make it a lot easier for us to kind of get ourselves established and get our base going. I'm going to just grab the sort of immediately useful things from this chest. I don't want to overfill my inventory. But we will come back for the rest of everything. Later on, we'll grab everything from this building. The other thing I'm doing as I am making my way towards the spot I chose for the base, I'm making sure to pick up any of these Pam's Harvest Craft Gardens that I see. These are going to be one of our big sources of food moving forward, so they're really important to grab. And having a good collection of these is also necessary for something called the Healing Axe later on. And that is going to be one of our, well, not necessarily early goals, one of our big goals once we get ourselves established. And here we are. This is where I intend to set up my starter base. As you can see, we have a few chunks of pretty flat, pretty clear land around here. We have a bog or swamp or something biome to the east, which is high humidity, which is going to make setting up our steam industry a lot easier. Over to the west, there's a village that we're going to be able to raid for some lovely goodies, and we will get to that later. So this feels like a pretty good spot, and it is also relatively close to spawn, so that when, not if, I die without my bed in place, I will be able to get back here and not hate myself. So now that we are where we want our base to be, we can go ahead and get started in the quest book by digging a hole. That is, of course, the first quest in Gregtech New Horizons. As I said earlier, we short-circuited most of this quest chapter by getting our bed already, but we do still need to push through and complete this chapter to get the Stone Age chapter to unlock for us. So I'm going to move pretty quickly through this. A lot of these quests are informational, and if you haven't played Gregtech before, I recommend you read them. I am not going to show all of them to you. I will just give you guys the highlights as we go. And there we go. I've pushed through most of this early first quest book chapter. We do have a couple of things left to do. This wants me to grow more carrots, but I think I'm going to be able to just collect these from the village around the corner, so I'm not going to plant carrots right now. We'll deal with farming in a little bit. There's the bed quest itself, which will only happen after I collect some wool. We'll need to find some sheep and take care of them for the wool. And there's also a similar quest here to ethically source some pork chops. There's some other things. There is this spear quest, which I think I do have enough string for that and for the other thing we need string in, which is down here. Is it the part builder uses? Yeah, these oak barricades. These are just one string each. Okay, so yeah, I should have enough string to make the spear. So if we find some cows and get some leather, that's worth looking into as well, just as a slightly longer range weapon. But because we found this stone sword, it does quite a bit more damage than the wooden sword we would otherwise have. Well, one more damage. So grabbing other weapons isn't, well, not quite as urgent. It's still urgent. This is still GTNH. The mobs hit hard. Oh, look at that. That's funny. Yep. Ha. When I'm standing, I'm one block too high. But when I'm down here, the map shows, I think, that's one of the puzzle room dungeon thingies. Okay. That's worth going to look for. We don't need to keep all this food with us. All right, since it's morning and we now have sort of all day to kill, let's wander over to the village and see what we can find there as far as worthwhile loot. We're not going to be able to grab everything right away, of course, but we will hopefully find some things that are immediately useful. And right over here, before we even do that, we're going to take care of some pigs and get that quest done as well. Ooh! Exploding sheep. One of those fun GTNH things. And there we go. Now that we've gathered the wool, the bed quest has completed automatically for us. We'll take a look at the loot from that shortly. Just like I hoped, there's some carrots we can gather here. So we'll collect some carrots. That should be enough for that quest. We can also grab some potatoes, and we'll grab some wheat. All of this is going to help us get started with our farming. I think there's a quest for wheat that we want, like, a stack of wheat for. If I check in fishing, farming, cooking. Yeah, oh, just half a stack. 32 wheat. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I do want to grab in this village. For the most part, things can wait until our next visit to it, when we have a little more storage and whatever else. But I know somewhere there is, here we go, an apothecary. Whoops, I didn't bring a shovel. That's all right. But the apothecary has a cauldron, which is great, and a chest. Nothing really interesting in that chest, but chests are expensive, so we'll go ahead and grab it. The chest is worth as much as the rest of the loot, at least to me. Over here, this is a tinker's building. We are going to have to actually craft all of these tinker's stations for a quest, so I'm not going to grab them, but I will grab just the crafting table, or the crafting station, because this is useful to us. We also have a forestry building here, which will we will eventually loot for some bee things. But if we come towards the back, and you might already be able to see it on the minimap, we've got a blacksmith and a tinker's smeltery in this village, and this is huge for us. Let's grab the blacksmith first, and of course we want these extra furnaces. Furnaces are not cheap. That's 6 flint right there. And looking in here, I'm just going to take this whole chest. Again, we need the chests. And while I'm here, I'll also grab this pressure plate. We'll use that to open our door, or really to close our door automatically. So I think that's pretty much all we needed to grab from this initially, is really just a couple of chests in this cauldron. And the food, of course. Everything else we can kind of come back for later when we need it. You know, a lot of things that would be cheap in base Minecraft are kind of expensive in GTNH. So like fence posts and ladders early on are big investments for us. So when we want to make an animal pen, it's absolutely worth coming back to this village to grab fence posts, right? There's some buildings that have ladders in them, and it's absolutely worth coming back for those. But just kind of initially, we don't have to grab those things. We do want to stay away from those guys. They will mess up our day, something fierce. And I'm collecting 8 staircases from village buildings because we will have a use for those to finish up a quest. I also think I need one more pig. Did I already finish that quest? Oh, one more. Interesting. That's all right. We'll take care of that. Perfect. So that gets us pretty much done with this early quest line, which is what we wanted to see. There we go. This is why I wanted to grab that Tinker's Station. It gives us access to the chest inventory. I've gotten myself a little bit more organized. I do obviously want to gather more chests, and I need a new shovel. There we go. We'll put some more chests on this side so it'll be kind of symmetric. And that should be enough to kind of keep us organized for the short term. Now that we have pretty much finished the beginner chapter and gotten ourselves a decent foundation, we want to start pushing towards better tools, and that is going to be from Tinkers. If we show all the quests line, we can see we get the Tinker tables pretty soon in the Stone Age section, and that's going to be our last goal for today. To do that, we need to get some stone. Our initial fuel option is pretty much just wood, unfortunately. And we will also need to gather a bunch of clay. So I believe 20 planks will do 30 cobblestone. So we'll go ahead and get that started. And while that's running, we can go ahead and find the clay that we need. Well, that's another shovel gone, so hopefully that will be enough clay for us for at least the short term. It's not a big deal if I have to make another shovel. It feels bad to be making a bunch of wooden tools because they're just not very efficient to make and they don't last long. And especially with Gregtech's terrible early wood recipes. But it's really not the end of the world, right? Wood is still basically free. It's still Minecraft. We can plant as many trees as we want. But hopefully we have enough materials at this point that we can get to the better flint tinker's tools and not have to make any more wooden tools. Now that we've got our stone, we can go ahead and make ourselves our first mortar. And the game wants us to use that mortar to make ourselves a clay bucket, which we definitely will. But we also want to use that mortar to get more flint. There's a much more efficient recipe for flint. Unfortunately, I think that means I do have to make myself another shovel. And go gather, a bunch of flint. Lucky for me, there's gravel kind of everywhere in this bog biome. I'm not going to try to finish up the gravel gathering quest. I'm just going to get enough for us to be able to move forward. Know that we're going to have enough to make some spare mortars and enough for our first flint tinker's tools. So we'll start with half a stack, and if I have to come back for more later, we can. Now that we have a lot more mortars, and believe me, we are going to need every single one of them, our next goal is to make the bucket. We did find a bucket. Here it is. But we still have to make one for the quest, unfortunately. So that's okay. Each of these, we need 4 clay balls to make 1 pile of clay, and the bucket takes 5 piles. So that is 20 of these for one bucket. And we already have one other bucket, so 1 should be enough. Oops, that's not how you do that. You put the piles together, then you get the unfired bucket. I'm going to go ahead and use this wooden sword as fuel here. And now that we have buckets and we can finally pick up water, we can do a couple of things. The next quest is this, to make paper, and we are going to do this before we do anything else. But being able to pick up water means that we can finally start thinking about planting a garden out here and getting some permanent food that isn't just quest book rewards. So that's something we're going to want to move to soon, but I do want to get the better tools done first. So let's get wood pulp. Wood pulp is just a mortar and logs, which we can do. The quest book recommends only making 64 wood pulp. I make an extra 32. You are going to need a little bit of extra paper, and it's easier to just get it all done at once. So let's find a spot near the water here. And all we can really do is start making paper. You can speed this up a little bit with some of the new NEI features, like the auto crafting. But for this, it's not as bad as some other recipes. Oops. Take that torch back. All right, with the paper, it does give us one blank pattern. We can go ahead and turn all the rest of our paper into more blank patterns. That's what we're going to need it for. The other thing that's worth checking at this point, and I do have the inventory space for it, so let's do it. Let's head back into the village to the Tinker's building, and let's see if it has any of the patterns that we're going to need. If you check this quest, you could see that getting all the patterns is an optional task, so we don't even have to do them. These are a retrieval task for all of the flint weapon heads, and I think I did see there was a flint pickaxe head, so we can save ourselves a piece of flint. But also, if there's any other patterns, we are going to just want to collect those from the Tinker's building over here. We can also grab the tool station. We'll want a tool station that stays in our base most of the time, but it's also nice to have one that we keep in our inventory for doing repairs and upgrades on the fly, or in the field, rather. So we will want to grab the second tool station from here, even though we have to make one for the quest anyway. So yeah, we do have a flint pickaxe head. We have obsidian binding, which I will take. Everything else we'll just kind of look at later. As far as patterns go, unfortunately, none of the ones here are useful for us in like the immediate sense. But we can at least grab the tool station, like I was talking about before. Any of the rest of this useful? I don't think so, not necessarily yet. But this obsidian binding will be nice, getting reinforced on our pickaxe right away. Those guys are still doing something, and I am happy to leave them to it. That's not what I meant to do with those. All right. Pattern chest. Stencil table, part builder, and tool station. That is our basic Tinker's workstations all ready to go. And now that we have those, we can, I think, yes, we can jump right into this quest, which wants us to have one more blank pattern. Ah, here we go. We get a blank pattern from this. I thought I would have enough blank patterns, and now I do. That's an optional quest anyway, but we do need, at the very least, to make our shovel head, axe head. We do have to make the wooden binding. We don't have to use it, but we have to make it. Let's get all of our patterns that we need figured out here. If you haven't used Tinker's before, it's pretty easy. Once you have the pattern, you go ahead and put the material for your tool in with the part builder next to the pattern, and you get the part you want. I actually want 2 each of the axe heads and the shovel heads, because I'm going to make a different tool, not just an axe and a shovel. That's all the quest wants. So there's our flint pickaxe, our flint shovel, our flint axe, and in addition to all of those, I also want to make a flint mattock. There we go. And the Flint-O-Matic is basically a combination shovel, axe, and hoe. So that's a really useful tool for us to have on us at all times. We'll go ahead and grab the loot bag from this quest, get ourselves organized again. It's really easy to get disorganized in modded Minecraft, of course. But it's always important to try to stay on top of it and to try to keep yourself sort of in good shape. Because once you lose track of your organization, it can be really hard to get yourself back to a place that you want to be at. We've got some of these wooden tools that we do just kind of need to finish using and burn out. We can let that happen. I do want to upgrade this pickaxe with that obsidian binding that we found. That is just a straight upgrade. Yeah, reinforced 3. Whatever that does. I might need puny smelting or mighty smelting to tell me. Yeah, this doesn't tell me what reinforced does, unfortunately. I need the better books for that. And there we go. With our flint tools, we are now pretty well established. We are ready to be able to gather more materials, and we are ready to move on to some more complex recipes. And that is what we will do next time. We will start to get into metals, and we'll get our basic Gregtech tools done. And I also, next time, would like to get our Tinker's Smeltery figured out. And between this and the Gregtech tools, that's going to be a huge bump in our technology level. And that will get us solidly set up to move into the Steam Age in a couple of episodes. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help small channels like mine. And I will see you all next time.